For nearly 50 years, there was a number that every fusion scientist on Earth treated as a law of nature. It wasn't written into the universe like gravity or the speed of light. It was a wall discovered by experiment, a hard ceiling that showed up again and again, in reactor after reactor, country after country. Push your fusion fuel past this particular density, and the whole thing falls apart. The superheated plasma, the star stuff you're trying to control, destabilizes, tears itself apart, and the reaction collapses, every time. Scientists gave it a name, the green-walled limit, and it was one of the great frustrating barriers standing between humanity and the dream of limitless clean energy. Because to make fusion actually produce more power than it consumes, you need that fuel, dense and hot and stable all at once, and the green-walled limit said you couldn't have all three. Then, on the first day of 2026, a team of Chinese scientists running a reactor they nicknamed the Artificial Sun did something the textbooks said shouldn't be possible. They blew straight past that limit, not by a little, but by as much as 65%, and the plasma didn't collapse. It stayed stable. It held. A wall that stood for nearly half a century just developed a door. Now, and you know this is coming if you watch this channel, there is crucial context here, and I'm going to give you all of it, honestly, including why this is not the free energy by next year miracle some headlines are selling. But the real story, the true one, is arguably more important than the hype. By the end of this video, you'll understand what fusion actually is, why this specific limit terrified scientists for 50 years, exactly how China broke it, and what it really means for the future of energy on this planet. Let's get into it. Let's start with the basics, because the nickname is doing a lot of work, and it's worth understanding why it's earned. Look up at the sun. Every bit of warmth and light pouring off it comes from one process: fusion. Deep in the sun's core, under crushing pressure and unimaginable heat, hydrogen atoms are smashed together so hard that they merge, they fuse into helium. And every time they do, a tiny bit of mass gets converted into an enormous burst of energy. That's it. That's what powers every star in the sky. It is, quite literally, the engine of the universe. Now imagine bottling that. Imagine building a machine on Earth that recreates the heart of a star, that fuses atoms the same way the sun does, and harnesses the energy that pours out. That's the dream of fusion power, and the prize is almost too good to believe. The fuel is essentially a form of hydrogen you can pull from seawater. It produces no carbon emissions. It can't melt down like a conventional nuclear plant. It generates only tiny amounts of short-lived waste compared to the fission reactors we use today. A single glass of fusion fuel could, in theory, hold the energy of barrels and barrels of oil. Clean, safe, and very nearly limitless. That's why nations have poured tens of billions of dollars into chasing it for over half a century. It's arguably the most valuable engineering goal in human history. The machine China uses to chase it is called EAST, the Experimental Advanced Superconducting Tokamak, located in Hefei. A tokamak is a specific design, a giant donut-shaped chamber wrapped in incredibly powerful magnets. Here's the central problem it solves. To make atoms fuse on Earth, you have to heat your hydrogen fuel to insane temperatures. EAST runs its plasma well beyond 100 million degrees Celsius, which is several times hotter than the core of the actual sun. And here's the obvious question. What do you build a container out of that can hold something hotter than the center of a star? The answer is nothing. No material on Earth can touch it. So the tokamak doesn't use a physical container for the hot part. It uses a cage made of pure magnetic force, suspending that star-hot plasma in midair so it never touches the walls. That is the artificial sun. A man-made knot of magnetic fields holding a sliver of star, glowing at 100 million degrees in the middle of a steel donut in eastern China. And the limit they just broke is all about how much fuel you're allowed to pack into that magnetic cage. Here's where we get to the heart of it, the green-walled limit, and why it haunted fusion for so long. To get useful power out of fusion, three things have to be true at once. Your fuel has to be hot enough, it has to be held together long enough, and it has to be dense enough, meaning you've packed enough fuel particles into the space for them to actually collide and fuse in large numbers. Temperature, time, and density. Crank up all three together, and you approach the holy grail. Ignition, the point where the reaction produces more energy than you put in and becomes self-sustaining, like a fire that keeps itself burning. The problem was density. Back in the 1980s, a physicist named Martin Greenwald noticed a stubborn pattern across fusion experiments. Every tokamak seemed to hit a density ceiling, try to pack in more fuel beyond a certain point, and the plasma would suddenly become violently unstable. It would develop disruptions, lose its confinement, and the reaction would crash. It happened so consistently that it became an empirical law of the field. The Greenwald limit, a line you simply did not cross, and it was a genuine roadblock to the entire dream. Because if you can't increase density past this line, you're capped on how much fusion power a reactor of a given size can produce. It forced designs to be bigger, more expensive, more conservative. For decades, fusion scientists essentially had to build around this wall, accepting it as a fixed fact of nature. Here's the part that makes the new result so striking. For nearly 50 years, most people assumed the Greenwald limit was something close to fundamental, a hard rule baked into how plasmas behave. But a newer theory suggested something more hopeful. That the limit wasn't a law of physics at all, it was a consequence, a side effect of how the plasma interacts with the walls of the reactor as it forms. And if that was true, then in principle, with exactly the right conditions, you might be able to sidestep it entirely. That theory had a name: plasma wall self-organization. It was elegant, it was promising, and for years, nobody had ever proven it actually worked in a real reactor. It was a beautiful idea waiting for evidence. China's artificial sun just provided that evidence. So how do you walk through a wall that stopped everyone for 50 years? The answer is surprisingly subtle and genuinely clever. The Chinese team, led by Professor Ping Zhu and Associate Professor Ning Yan, didn't break the limit with brute force, not by simply building bigger magnets or cranking up the power. They broke it by carefully choreographing the very beginning of the reaction, the startup phase, the first moments when the plasma is being born. Here's the core idea, simplified. Normally, as you cram more fuel into the plasma, the edge of that plasma, where it meets the reactor, gets cold and dirty. Impurities build up, energy leaks away, and that cascade is what triggers the instability that crashes the whole thing at the Greenwald limit. The wall and the plasma get into a destructive relationship. The Chinese team's insight was to manage that relationship from the very first instant. They precisely controlled two things: the amount of fuel gas they started with, and a special type of heating called electron-cyclotron resonance heating, essentially using carefully tuned microwaves to energize the electrons in the plasma at exactly the right moment. By dialing in those startup conditions just so, they got the plasma and the reactor walls to settle into a balanced, self-regulating relationship, the self-organization the theory predicted. In that balanced state, something remarkable happens. The plasma stops fighting to high density. Instead of becoming unstable as you pack more fuel in, it stays calm and confined. The team sustained stable plasma at densities between 1.3 and 1.65 times the Greenwald limit. That's 30 to 65% past the line that crashed reactors for half a century, with no disruptions. And critically, this was the first time anyone had ever experimentally confirmed that the self-organization theory actually works in a real tokamak. They didn't just break a record, they proved a theory that could reshape how every future reactor is designed. It's the difference between forcing a locked door and discovering it was never truly locked. You just had to turn the handle the right way. That's what makes this more than a number. It's a new understanding of how the rules actually work. Now here's where I have to be completely straight with you, because this is exactly the kind of story that gets wildly overhyped, and I'd rather you trust this channel than mislead you. This breakthrough does not mean fusion power is arriving next year, or even this decade. It does not mean your electricity bill is about to vanish. And here are the honest reasons why. First, and most important, no fusion reactor on Earth, including East, currently produces net positive energy when you account for the entire system. Right now, these machines still consume more energy to run than they generate. Breaking the density limit is a crucial ingredient toward changing that, but it is not the same as achieving it. East is an experiment, not a power plant. It will never put a single watt into anyone's home. Second, fusion still faces brutal engineering challenges that have nothing to do with this particular limit. Building materials that can survive years of relentless neutron bombardment and star-level heat. Sustaining the reaction not for seconds or minutes, but indefinitely. Turning the heat into electricity efficiently and affordably. These are enormous, unsolved problems, and progress on the materials side has actually been slower than progress on the plasma physics side. And third, even the scientists involved are careful here. As one expert put it, this breakthrough improves confidence in future reactor designs rather than accelerating timelines. It doesn't suddenly make commercial fusion arrive sooner. It makes the eventual reactors potentially smaller, cheaper, and easier to design, because they may not need to be as enormous or as conservative about density as everyone assumed. So the honest framing is this: China did not just solve fusion, What China did is remove one of the longest-standing roadblocks on the path and prove that a barrier everyone treated as nearly fundamental was actually beatable. That's not the finish line, but it's a genuine, verified, peer-reviewed step toward it, published in the journal Science Advances, and it matters for every fusion project on Earth, not just China's. Here's the part that makes this bigger than a single experiment in Hefei. This discovery doesn't just help China. Because it's a fundamental insight into how plasma behaves, it potentially helps everyone chasing fusion. The world's largest fusion project, ITER, a massive international collaboration in France involving dozens of countries, could potentially use this density-free regime to reach its own goals more easily. The same is true for the wave of private fusion startups that have collectively attracted billions of dollars in investment. A barrier that constrained all of their designs may have just been loosened for all of them at once. There's even a fascinating bonus buried in the data. For years, there's been a rivalry between two reactor shapes, the donut-shaped Tokamaks and a twisted design called a stellarator. Each had different strengths around density. The EAST results suggest Tokamaks can now operate in a high-density regime that was previously thought to be a stellarator's advantage, effectively giving the most common reactor design a new superpower it wasn't supposed to have. And then there's the strategic picture, which is impossible to ignore. China has now formally written controllable nuclear fusion into its national 5-year plan as a major strategic priority, with a roadmap targeting a pilot reactor around 2035 and a demonstration reactor by roughly 2045. While much of the world has treated fusion as a someday maybe science project, China is treating it as a national industrial goal with a timeline and serious funding behind it. EAST breaking the Greenwald limit isn't an isolated lab result. It's one milestone in a deliberate, long-term national march toward being the country that figures out how to put a star in a bottle first. And whoever does that first, whoever cracks practical, commercial fusion, doesn't just win a scientific prize. They potentially gain control over the cheapest, cleanest, most abundant energy source in human history. The country that masters fusion could reshape the entire global balance of power, because energy underlies everything. Every factory, every data center, every economy. This isn't only about science, it's about who powers the next century. Here's my honest opinion. I think the right way to hold this is to resist both of the easy reactions. The breathless headlines screaming "China just solved fusion, unlimited energy is here," are flatly wrong. We're still decades from a commercial reactor, no machine yet produces net energy, and the hardest engineering problems remain unsolved. Anyone promising you a fusion-powered home by 2030 is selling fantasy. But the cynics who shrug and say fusion is always 30 years away, ignore it, are making a subtler mistake. Because the nature of the progress is changing. For 50 years, the Greenwald limit was treated as a near-permanent wall. China just demonstrated, with peer-reviewed evidence, that it was never a wall at all, just a problem waiting for the right understanding. That's not 30 years away, that's a barrier falling in real time. When the supposedly impossible limits start breaking one by one, the old joke about fusion being perpetually distant stops being quite so funny. What strikes me most is the shift in posture. Fusion used to be a graveyard of broken promises that no one wanted to bet on. Now, there's billions in private money flowing in, nations writing it into industrial plans, and reactors breaking limits that stood since the 1980s. The momentum is real, even if the finish line is still far off. And the fact that one of the biggest recent breakthroughs came out of an artificial sun in eastern China tells you something about who's taking this prize most seriously right now. So here's my question for you, and I genuinely want your honest answer. Do you think we'll see practical, commercial fusion power in our lifetimes? Or is it still the technology that's always 30 years away, no matter how many limits get broken? Are you a fusion optimist or a fusion skeptic? Drop your real take in the comments. I read everyone, and I have a feeling this splits people right down the middle. If you want to keep following this, the breakthroughs, the broken limits, the race to power the future before the rest of the world catches on, subscribe to Eastern Engine and hit the notification bell. Energy, chips, the foundations of the modern world are being rewritten right now, and we break it all down clearly and honestly. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.